Welcome to Bella&Goch. Today, we are exploring the sprawling empire of corporations in Star Citizen's universe, where one such behemoth reigns over a planet, Hurston Dynamics. Established during humanity's expansion into space, this colossal entity wielded control like an iron fist wrapped around industrial growth and exploitation on the Stanton system. With its gripping history of conquest, intertwined with survival instincts among workers striving for a semblance of dignity in their daily grind, Hurston Dynamics stands as both monument to human ingenuity and epitome of corporate despotism. But what does it mean for the people who toil within this titanic entity? Each day begins at dawn, as workers clock into their designated tasks, a monotonous ballet of efficiency. From sprawling factories belching out plasma and synthetic goods that fuel Hurston Dynamics' expansion across spaceports like ArcCorp's on Crusader Industries, to the dimly lit workshops where teenagers learn arcane skills, their lives are a testament to human resilience. Yet beneath this surface of progress lies an unsettling truth. In seeking survival through sweat and sacrifice under corporate rule. So how has this colossal influence shaped the societies beyond its industrial grasp? On planets like ArcCorp and Crusader, Hurston Dynamics dictates not just economies, but also politics, subtly bending wills through economic leverage. The Empire's shadow stretches far into governance structures of Terra itself as well, with an unyielding grasp on trade routes that extend beyond its immediate orbit to even the most lawful corners like UEE's capital. Their influence is omnipresent and all-consuming. As the sun sets over industrial giant Hurston, one cannot help but ponder how a single corporation's ambitions have threaded through society like roots of an ancient tree. From ArcCorp's towering spires to Crusader Industries' floating factories and micro-tech laboratories bustling with innovation, all pulse under Hurston Dynamics' influence, don't they? It begs the question. What happens when economies are so intertwined that their fates become inseparable? Here on Earth, we see nations struggling for autonomy. Out there among stars and asteroids, planets churn beneath corporate giants commanding grip. Amidst the hum of machinery and clang of metal against stone, lives are shaped day by day, not just on a Hurstonite, but across countless worlds under similar corporate flags. Here we find Alex, whose hands mold steel yet mind wrestles with reality's fabric. Is freedom an abstract, or can it thrive in such tightly woven networks of dependency? Reflecting upon his days, the long shifts at Microtech's lab where innovation feeds empire, the homebound evenings spent dreaming not just for himself, but perhaps, unknowingly, for Hurston Dynamics' sprawling dominion. It prompts us to question, what is a worker when stripped of choice and molded by corporate desire? As the galaxy unfolds beneath us, one sees a tapestry interwoven with corporate greed's heavy stitches, altering more than just trade and industry. Cultures that once celebrated their unique heritage now share common denominators. Currency, labor expectations, even governance models shaped by Hurston Dynamics reach into politics through ArcCorp elections or micro-tech diplomatic channels. It prompts a profound realization. Does the corporate shadow extend beyond mere economies and influence identities as well? This raises alarms about homogenizing forces at play, leading us to confront. Are we nurturing individuality within our societies while being underneath Hurston Dynamics' ever-watchful eyes, or will that be forever clouded by corporate oversight? A cosmic paradox of modern existence. In the smog-choked skies above Hurston's industrious cities and sprawling factories lies a stark reminder of progress at what cost. Here, amidst towering structures that scrape even the heavens, what future do these monuments for profit promise? As we delve deeper into this chapter, let us consider how corporate might shapes life on one small speck in our vast universe. Wrapped in the uniformity enforced by corporate decree, these individuals rise before dawn to labor under harsh conditions for little more than a meager wage. Their hands shape products and futures with efficiency that belies their silent suffering. Can one truly call this justice? We must pause here to reflect on how Hurston Dynamics has redefined not just economics, but the very essence of work life in our universe. But how does one planet's corporate dominion echo throughout a 1,000 light-year expanse? Consider this. When Hurston thrives, others suffer. For every victory in the marketplace of commerce here, there's termophalangeal strife elsewhere. What then is our role as mere witnesses to such exploitation, complicit or compassionate citizenship lost among stars? This scene urges us not just to observe, but engage with these interstellar socioeconomic dynamics. When we peel back the layers of time to witness the birth of Hurston Dynamics atop the industrious but fractured world of Stanton, a narrative unfolds. This is not merely about corporate expansion. It's an era where dreams are intertwined with iron, a tale spun from exploitation and hope in equal measure. Behind the closed doors of these sprawling facilities, where humans toil day and night under artificial lights that mimic starlight, what stories do they carry? Here in this place teeming with life, we see more than workers. There is an entire community bound by threads of necessity. They're a testament not just to the might of corporations, but also their capacity for human endurance and adaptation. As the gears of industry turn unceasingly at Stanton's core, ripples are felt throughout not just local economies, but also into distant corners where law and order dwindle. Where Hurston's influence blossoms in prosperity for some, it casts shadows on others, shadows that raise questions about who truly benefits from this empire built upon the sinews of exploitation. In the shadowed alleys and gleaming factories that form our focal point lies a tale not often told. It's about Hurston Dynamics, a corporation whose roots delve deep into Stanton's soil. Its tendrils spreading wide among these people, it both empowers with jobs yet exploits through labor intensity and long hours. Established in the aftermath of a galaxy-wide financial upheaval, Hurston Dynamics emerged as an industrial powerhouse amidst chaos. But how did this transformation shape Stanton's destiny? The company's rapid ascension reflects not just economic prowess, it mirrors human ambition and the insatiable hunger for progress. With machinery churning ceaselessly, one must ponder, at what cost does prosperity come in a system where corporate giants like Hurston dominate? Here we are drawn into the paradox of industry, the lifeline it provides against its oppressive nature when wielded by entities with unchecked might. Beneath Hurston Dynamics' steel and glass exterior lies an ecosystem teeming with workers whose days and nights blend into a monotonous loop of production. Each cog in this vast machine represents not just another body, but also the sweat, dreams, and silent tears that fuel Hurston Dynamics' endless output. Do these individuals see beyond their roles? Labor laws seem to wither away like distant memories here on Stanton. A workforce often juggles multiple jobs under precarious conditions while grappling with the stark reality of life in corporate clutches. They feed into an empire, but is survival merely subsistence when your primary industry leaves little room for growth or leisure? Reflecting on their stories forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about equity and respect within capitalist structures. Questions that beg not just answers, they demand action. Tracing our journey through time to today's hurdles facing those born under Hurston Dynamics' shadow reveals a complex societal tapestry. The corporation has not just built an empire, it sculpted Stanton, reshaping its culture around the relentless pace of production and profit margins that often overlook individual well-being for economic gain. As we observe these communities thriving under duress rather than freedom, a question lingers in the space between us. How has Hurston Dynamics altered not just commerce, but humanity itself on Stanton? The cost of this empire extends beyond mere labor. It permeates through every layer of society, shaping norms and expectations. This reflection is critical. It's a call to understand our place within these industrial chains, urging us to consider the future we want not just for ourselves, but also leave behind for those who follow in Hurston Dynamics' footsteps. In the aftermath of interstellar conflict, and with resources scarce across space, Hurston Dynamics emerged as a beacon for hope, or so it was proclaimed. Their roots entwined deeply within Stanton's soil since inception. They sought not just survival but prosperity. Yet beneath this gleaming veneer of industrial revolution and promised progress lurked an unsettling question. At what cost? The company, under its guise as a purveyor of jobs and economic boon to the system's inhabitants, was also shackled with exploiting every atom within their reach. Each steel-gray skyscraper erected bore witness not just to human ingenuity, but an insatiable corporate appetite. Delve deeper into the life of a worker in this corporation-controlled world. Dawn's light scarcely penetrating their barracks, where dreamers and drifters alike bunk. The clangor from factories, relentless as heartbeats within its walls. Here labor is not just occupation, but the very essence of existence for many. Wages are meager yet necessary to scrape by in an economy built on Hurston Dynamics' iron grip, where every choice between comfort and survival echoes a profound question. Do these jobs offer freedom or chain their bearers further? The company's vast influence seeps into the culture of not just commerce, but community itself. As the lens zooms out to encompass wider vistas of Stanton's system-wide influence by Hurston Dynamics' reach, we confront an industrial colossus whose tendrils are unavoidable. While its factories hum with production and enterprise thrives where it plants flags, societal rifts emerge like scars upon the landscape. A chasm between those elevated within corporate ranks to live in comfort versus laborers who earn daily bread at their backs becomes apparent. This dichotomy serves as fertile ground for discord and dissent. Yet one must ponder, does this seismic shift birth merely disparity, or can it be the harbinger of a new order where corporate might meet human spirit? Reflection on Hurston Dynamics' legacy is not just about acknowledging wealth generated, but also examining its true cost to those who till and tinker at their core. When we peel back the layers on this titanic corporation's ascent to power within Stanton's system-wide influence begins. Picture it. An era when industry was king and Hurston Dynamics, with its industrial might embodied in smokestacks piercing clouds of progress rather than stars, where ambition fueled both growth and exploitation alike. Now imagine standing shoulder to shoulder with these workers. Each sunrise and setting they rise for labor that is as taxing on the body as it is exhaustive to one's spirit. Underneath those imposing structures where progress was built, there lay a stark reality, a community caught in an unending cycle of demand. But what cost comes with such unchecked expansion? Reflecting upon this behemoth shadow cast over Stanton's system, where prosperity for some has led to the disenfranchisement of many, where corporate edict dictates life and death choices. Can a balance be found in an empire built on industrial might without losing sight of its human element? This question looms large as we delve deeper into Hurston Dynamics' legacy, an entity whose reach is felt far beyond the mechanical humming within factory walls. In a time where industry fueled progress across star systems, Hurston Dynamics emerged as both titan and towering example. But how did this corporation ascend to control an entire planet? Born from the coal-stained foundations of industrial might on planet Corp's home world, its history intertwines with humanitous evolution, where ambition meets survival in spacefaring society. Here in the heart of operation at planet Corp's industrial hub, controlled by Hurston Dynamics, workers toil under corporate decree. Life here is stark, dreams often lost amidst assembly lines that stretch as far as vision allows, while executives orbit on distant worlds unfazed and unbeholden. What costs do these laboring souls pay for the prosperity they've built? The dichotomy between corporate power structures and individual plight underscores a narrative of sacrifice, where one streamlined efficiency meets another, mired in relentless industry. A planet owned by a corporation like Hurston Dynamics is not just about economic output. It's an assertion of dominance that shapes the very fabric of society. This control fosters disparities, where some revel in abundance while others languish on scraps, a living testament to what capitalism can extract from humanitarian aspirations for freedom and dignity when left unchecked by law or moral compasses alike. But at what cost does this corporate empire come? As we ponder the vast expanse of space, let us not forget that even among stars, our earthbound fates remain entwined with decisions made in boardrooms rather than on democratic forums. Here we stand at ground zero, vast industrial complexes that paint our sky red and black. These aren't mere buildings. They are the pulsing veins of Hurston Dynamics, churning out products while sucking the soul from Stanton planet bit by painstaking bite. Imagine being born into a life where every dawn is greeted with backbreaking work, not for freedom or choice, but because this isn't your home anymore. These laborers aren't just employees. They are pawns in Hurston Dynamics' relentless quest for profit. Their families bound to the whims of a corporate empire that sees them as replaceable cogs rather than human beings. When discontentment spread through these factories, it wasn't just about wages. They were yearning for dignity, a voice in their own futures. The strike was more than protesting hours or paychecks. It symbolized an outcry against being owned rather than hired, as Hurston Dynamics property dictated every breath of life on this planet. Once a bustling hub for progress with the glint in its workers' eyes was Hurston Dynamics, a beacon of advancement where promises were made and dreams sold. Promises like dignity, respect, an opportunity to rise beyond mere survival on this rocky planet, now named ArcCorp Prime by a faceless corporation who owned it all from the sky downwards. Their homes, fields, factories. But what was that promise worth when weighed against reality? How did those golden words of hope resonate with each soul as they clocked in day after grueling day, amid towering machinery and ceaseless noise under harsh sunlight or artificial storms within these industrial monoliths, working tirelessly to fuel not only the empire but their own desperate dream? The cost of such a feat was evident. The price paid in hours lost from family life, health compromised by relentless labor, and spirits subdued under ceaseless surveillance. Reflecting on these conditions opens an inquiry into whether progress is truly being made at the expense of humanity. As whispers among the steel giants turned into roars that echoed through factory halls and outgrew their boundaries, the spark of rebellion was not ignited by external forces, but kindled from within, in homes where families gathered with furrow-lined brows under dim lights to share tales of what they saw, not machines as the culprits for misery, but human hands bound tightly together in chains wrought by corporate greed. What did it mean when not just wages and hours became points of contention, but a hunger for autonomy? When workers stood shoulder to shoulder, their collective voice could not be ignored. The strike commenced as more than mere protest. It was an uprising seeking the very essence that made them human: dignity. The corporate response simmered beneath surface-level negotiations and dismissals of grievances voiced for generations until they had erupted into open defiance, unfurling like sails against a stormy sky. In the silence that followed upheaval, as if each factory now stood in quiet solidarity to remind what was once voiceless found its echo, a reflection on how an empire could reach so far yet fail when it ignored those who powered its very existence. The struggle bore fruit beyond immediate resolution. A dialogue for dignified labor began, one that sought not just fair pay but respect and voice within the structure of corporate governance itself. While challenges remain as steep mountains to climb on this journey toward equity, the Hurston Dynamics saga serves as both warning flare and lighthouse, guiding towards a horizon where workers' welfare doesn't trade for progress at any cost, but rather becomes its cornerstone alongside technology. The question lingers in the afterglow of resistance. Will this be remembered not just by history or forgotten like so many before? Or will its seed change as enduringly profound and necessary within an empire built on control, now facing a newfound reckoning with itself, rooted deeply among its people once more than ever, each person vital to the story of Hurston Dynamics? As the once bustling factories now stand hushed in stillness, a silent witness to their laborers' unrest. Here, where gears had never slept nor ceaseless production ever halted under a flawless sky of steel structures and cold concrete floors, an eerie quietude has descended upon them. How did the relentless pursuit for productivity bring such tranquility to these workers who once scurried about in oblivion? We must delve into their stories, each worker a narrative unto themselves of exploitation and resilience. Beneath these high ceilings, where echoes once churned with voices too many to count, an industrious rhythm set the day's cadence. Here lived Jack, a young operator whose early morning shifts began before dawn. His face was etched by labor as much from machines as he bore within him dreams of change beyond these walls that sought progress at any cost. But what price does one pay for survival in this concrete jungle? We must peel back layers to reveal the true currency traded here: health, happiness, and human dignity. Underneath flickering neon signs and pulsing arcades, where the oppressed now found voice, a cacophony of whispers morphing into a roar for equity. Jack, once silenced by routine's drone, took his stand among murmurs that swelled to demand change. This was no mere upheaval, but an awakening crusade against exploitation clad in the armor of solidarity and resolve. And yet one question stands unanswered. Can a corporation mend what it has torn asunder? The answer may lie not solely ahead, within these converging paths where every step toward justice is met with resistance. A battle for Hurston Dynamics' soul. Imagine waking up in an age where work wasn't just about survival, but revolved around the very essence of freedom. Here, amidst gears and grime within Hurston Dynamics' walls, a behemoth that has grown beyond its industrial roots to encompass a planet under corporate control, echoes of rebellion begin as whispered rumors amongst workers. But why here, in these shadowed passages? Where beneath flickering neon signs and pulsing arcades, once a playground for the oppressive routines imposed by corporate giants like Hurston Dynamics, did murmurs of discontent coalesce into an unstoppable force demanding equity. Jack, whose life was once dictated by clockwork discipline, now finds his voice in defiance. Who knows what sparks might ignite the flames that will cleanse this corporeal chimera? As dawn breaks, the city stirs not just from light, but with a rising current of insurrection. Hurston Dynamics, once an unassailable titan straddling Stanton's world economy and politics, now faces its first taste of opposition that ripples outwards, threatening to upend centuries-old power structures, challenging every corporate law on human labor rights in the process. When halcyon dawn first took root within Stanton's fertile grounds of industry in the early 2300, little did it foresee becoming a monolithic testament to corporate dominion. Its founders, Vulcan Enterprises and Cosmic Synergy Corporation, merging under one banner, brought forth not just an amalgamation, but also despotic efficiency that redefined labor value across the Stanton system, treating each worker as nothing more than a cog in their vast machine of profit. But what happens when these very foundations are built on soil soiled by relentless exploitation? This is where our tale begins to weave its darker threads through time. Daily life in the shadowed factories, where halcyon dawn's machinery hummed through endless cycles from twilight to dawn and back again, was a symphony of human sweat. Here we saw not just workers, but fractured souls, families shattered under ceaseless labor that paid less than bare survival on Terra, where the corporation dictated every rhythm with an iron hand, cloaked in velvet promises to progress and unity through their Hurston way. Yet among these echoes of hollow hopes was a burgeoning murmur, a resistance born not from ignorance but resilience. But how far can this whisper grow before it roars, demanding more than just survival? As dawn breaks, the city stirs not just from light, but with a rising current of insurrection. Hurston Dynamics, once an unassailable titan straddling Stanton's world economy and politics, now faces its mirrored shadows in every corner where dissent whispers louder than ever before. Each strike, protest, or act of sabotage is no longer a solitary cry, but the crescendoing voice demanding recognition. The workers who once bent to corporate whim find themselves rallied by their shared plight under halcyon's weight, now stand firm with conviction and unity. A stark contrast against its industrial monolith that overlooked humanity beneath cold steel gaze for so long. A question arises. Can an empire built on such foundations ever yield to the very spirit it sought to crush? In the infancy of space colonization on Stanton's surface, Hurston Dynamics was birthed from ambition and necessity. Its founders saw a universe ripe with resources to be harnessed for humanity extraterrestrial expansion. But at what cost? The air heavy with soot where factories churn around the clock symbolized progress or servitude. This is history's riddle, twisted by profit margins. As we trace back through Hurston Dynamics, story begins to unfold. A company that grew beyond its humble origins into an empire straddling Stanton economy and politics. Hurston Dynamics didn't just own a planet, it owned the very souls of its workers, their labor feeding into an insatiable corporate machine. In every home, hearth dimmed as factories dominated life with relentless efficiency that blunted any semblance of free time or thought for personal dreams amidst these spacefaring folk who had come from all corners seeking a new start, but found themselves prisoners in their own lives instead. The cost. Humanity was measured on productivity scales, and the price paid daily by each individual spoke volumes. Did they really believe that this is prosperity when every choice felt like surrender to corporate demands? But beneath the veneer of orderly dusk stood a burgeoning rebellion. Whispers grew into roars as workers began to see that their labor, once freely given for survival and prosperity under Hurston Dynamics, oppressive regime was now fueling unrest. Each act of defiance by these spacefarers sparked hope. They dared not imagine a life beyond the dictate of corporations. But why? Why were hearts set ablaze with revolution, when centuries before had shown that nothing could truly be changed within such iron grip systems unless it was forcefully disrupted? This scene we unfold is one where desperation meets courage. For every worker yearning to break free from the shackles of corporate control tells a tale not just about Hurston Dynamics, but humanity's ceaseless struggle against subjugation. When the company first laid its claim on Stanton's soil in 2901, it was a mere vision of industry and expansion. Hurston Dynamics rose swiftly with promises of prosperity for all who worked within their steel embrace. Yet beneath those gleaming skyscrapers lay an unspoken contract, freedom traded silently against the clock's relentless ticking. Fast forward to the present day, Hurston Dynamics' grip has tightened like a vice as days merge into nights for workers. Here in this vast expanse of concrete and steel, their shadows stretch long against cold fluorescent lighting. They carry out tasks dictated by algorithms rather than human need or ambition. But beneath the veneer of orderly dusk stood a burgeoning rebellion. Whispers grew into roars as workers began to see that their labor, once freely given for survival and prosperity under Hurston Dyn, had morphed into bondage. They sought not just fair wages, but respect, the right to dream of skies unchained by corporate decree. But how did Hurston Dynamics ascend to such towering heights in the first place? Born from a seed of ambition and necessity, they forged their empire on this gray world. As industries mushroomed under heavy-handed control, workers found themselves trapped within steel structures that promised prosperity but delivered servitude instead. Imagine waking to your shackling reality every dawn, where one's life is but a cog in the massive machine that Herzl's Hurston Dynamics. Laborers, their hopes crushed under heavy boots of corporate governance, they live through each day with eyes fixed on an uncertain horizon, not out of choice, but by coerced circumstance. But beneath the veneer of orderly dusk stood a burgeoning rebellion. Whispers grew into roars as workers began to see that their labor, once freely given for survival and prosperity under Hurston Dyn's facade, had become an anchor dragging them down. The seedlings of revolt germinated in the soil fertilized by desperation. A storm was brewing on this corporate-controlled landscape. Our journey into understanding Hurston Dynamics begins here amidst towering factories and dense crowds. Imagine workers who rise before the sun to labor, not for profit or pleasure, but simply because they must, their lives intertwined with machinery that never sleeps nor tires. But why did these individuals accept such a fate? Was it coercion from corporate overlords vying for dominance in space's vast wildernesses? Consider then their living quarters, cramped habitats barely shielding them from the industrial grime that mars Stanton. Here's where survival becomes a daily conquest, not for themselves, but to feed an empire they scarcely recognize as home any longer. How far will these souls go before breaking free? The spark of rebellion, kindled in whispers between shifts and steam hissing from seams unseen by corporate eyes. Imagine a world where one corporation's vision spans entire planets. This isn't fiction here on Stanton. It is the stark truth. Hurston Dynamics extends its reach into every corner of planet Hurston, dictating not just economies, but lives itself with an iron fist cloaked in industrialism. The workers toil under conditions that are more reminiscent of a dystopian nightmare than modern employment, where sustenance is as much about corporate profitability as it is survival, and the boundaries between laborer and asset blur into oblivion. But who are these laborers whose sweat feeds corporations as much as it does their own bodies? They seek identity in the grime and greed that define Hurston Dynamics' presence, striving for dignity, not just to exist, but truly live. Their dreams orbit around a star more distant than Stanton's capital, one of respect, recognition beyond mere economic contribution, where their labor doesn't solely power machines or line corporate ledgers. And what is the cost of this empire on a planet where corporations own not just buildings but destinies? The environment gasps under exploitation while social structures crumble, echoing with cries for autonomy long suppressed by ceaseless industry. Here, amidst reclaimed junk and rusted hope, stands testimony to the price of power. A planet's resources drained as blood from its veins, humanity's spirit frayed at industrial whims. The cost is not just economic, but existential. As we trace back to where Hurston Dynamics' empire began, it's essential to understand the corporation's early inception, a time when industrial ambition outpaced ethical considerations. In Stanton System's bustling streets and crowded factories rose a titan of industry that promised progress but delivered subjugation. Its shadow cast long over workers' lives. The corporate giant imposed not just an economy on these people, it claimed their very essence. But at what cost does this progress come? The industrial sprawl of Hurston Dynamics leaves scars upon the earth, its toxic tendrils infiltrating soil and skies alike. Beyond environmental degradation lies a social maelstrom, communities fractured under corporate dictums that value profit margins over humanity's welfare. Where once was diversified culture, now echoes with the monotonous hum of machinery, and children's laughter is replaced by sirens heralding another shift cycle. Imagine waking up not to your family or neighborhood, but the cold hum of machinery and corporate slogans dictating every breath. This is a life for many on planet Hurston, where one's role in this vast empire begins before dawn with commutes that span across continents within their own body rather than through spaceways, where personal aspirations are often lost amidst the relentless pursuit of productivity quotas, and labor becomes a currency as valuable on Stanton system planets. Here lies not just work, here thrives an empire upon individuals. As the first rays touch down on a world already scarred by centuries of industrial exploitation, we see Hurston Dynamics' shadow loom larger than ever. What began as an ambitious corporation with dreams to thrive amidst space now stands firmly rooted in Stanton, commanding not just economies, but the very lives within its grasp. Here in Hurston's heartland, where the sky is a steel gray and hope has dimmed to something almost forgotten, workers rise with dawn's light, not out of love for their jobs, but necessity. They breathe air heavy with fumes from sprawling factories that stretch into every corner of life here. They sleep in shelters rather than homes, trading freedom for the assurance of work and a dollar to feed themselves. But at what price does this progress come? The wealth generated by Hurston Dynamics' empire is vast, a testament to their efficiency and ruthlessness. Yet, beneath the veneer of advancement lies a cost too heavy for many. Exploitation masquerading as economic opportunity, prosperity built upon sacrifice rather than fair exchange. In the heartbeat of Stanton Systems industry lies a tale not often told, a story where ambition climbed atop exploitation. Hurston Dynamics emerged from humble beginnings, with its founders envisioning something monumental beyond their grasp. But who can ignore when progress is built on the back of those it displaces? How did a company founded by visionaries become synonymous, not only with prosperity and domination over vast lands, but also with human tolls that are often glossed over in tales of success? The founders, once pioneers forging through uncharted territories on their quest for fortune. Now they stand as the architects behind structures where workers serve merely numbers rather than names, souls reduced to mere cogs within an expansive machine. But at what price does this progress come? The wealth generated by Hurston Dynamics' empire is vast, a testament to their efficiency and ruthlessness. Yet beneath the veneer of advancement lies a cost far greater than mere profits. For whom do these towering plants stand if not in honor but exploitation, with laborers enduring beyond what any human heart should bear? How many stories untold breathe within cramped quarters that line our cityscapes and industrial sprawl? The chasm between the opulence of executive skyscrapers overlooking bustling markets below, juxtaposed with dimly lit living spaces for those who toil under their roofs. How can one not reflect on this inequity? These are citizens whose days and nights blur into a continuous cycle dictated by the rhythm of production lines. But is it truly progress when that progress tramples human dignity beneath its feet, leaving scars both visible and invisible? Confronted with this dichotomy of affluence at the expense of exploitation, one must wonder, what stirs within those who witness these stark realities, and yet find themselves ensnared in its tentacles? Can society truly turn a blind eye when murmurs have begun to evolve into roars demanding change, where workers unite not only through strikes, but also the power of solidarity, challenging corporate giants with their very human stories? It prompts us, viewers entranced in this unfolding drama from afar, to consider our complicity or stand as bystanders to such moral complexities. The ethical crossroads ahead for Hurston Dynamics and the Stanton system is clear. It bids not only corporate responsibility, but a societal reckoning with values that have long been held sacred: justice, equality, humanity itself. Once upon an era not so distant, Hurston Dynamics stood as a beacon of industrial progress and human aspiration. Born from the ambition to transform Stanton into a bastion of economic prosperity, it started with lofty ideals, providing for all who labored under its roofs, while fostering advancements in technology that promised an age of abundance beyond what any had dared dream before. But as these dreams took shape, they morphed into the very blueprint for a corporatocracy. The hands that once toiled with hope now bear marks of exploitation. Hurston Dynamics' reach grew not just across its industrial lands, but deep within every aspect of life here on Stanton. From work assignments dictated by algorithmic precision, downplaying human judgment in favor of efficiency. When the founders of Hurston Dynamics first set foot upon uncharted soil, their vision was simple yet transformative: to forge a new world from dust. But as these dreams took shape, they morphed into the very blueprint for an exploitative corporatocracy where profits trump all else. The hands that once worked with hope now bore marks of relentless industry. Skin dyed by chemical labor and bone, weathering under ceaseless toil, became commonplace among workers on this planet, a chilling testament to human ambition's darker side. Beneath the gloss of prosperity lies stories untold, tales not just about machinery and productivity, but also human spirit. Every morning begins with a grueling commute, a journey through desolate terrain, where survival often means endurance rather than escape. In their living quarters provided by Hurston Dynamics as cheap rental housing or substandard apartments for the low pay of laborers who toil day in and out under watchful corporate eyes, these workers live not just a life but an existence reduced, where home is often more synonymous with workplace than hearth. What does it mean when every aspect from birth till bone-weary death becomes part of the machine? But even in shadowed corners and whisper networks among these toilers springs a resilience that corporate chains cannot break. Rumors of protests, not the chaotic upheavals seen elsewhere, but quiet murmurs at twilight after shifts, small acts signaling discontentment against unjust conditions. This is where stories not just about Hurston Dynamics might and reach unfold into narratives on human dignity preserved in rebellion. These workers may fight with little more than hope as their weapon, but does that mean they wield no power? For every law enforcement encounter or undercover operation by corporate security blanketing the night skies of Hurston cities, there are those who refuse to be just another cog and stand tall against exploitation. In a place where industrial behemoths cast long shadows over once thriving communities, lives of workers at Hurston Dynamics unfold, a daily testament to the relentless engine that powers their corporate homeworld. Here in this cornerstone planet for Stanton's mightier economic forces, what price does progress demand? Workers bound by contractual shackles who rise with each sunrise and set under its unforgiving light. They form not a family, but an army of labor, each step forward another brick laid into the foundation. But beneath this facade lies murmurs of discontent that reverberate through dimly lit corridors, where whispers speak volumes about their silent struggles. Amidst dilapidated buildings, standing tall against a neon-drenched sky, these workers, not merely cogs in the machine, but bearers of hope and rebellion. Who are they if not tithed to corporate decree? They dream under starless nights where constellations reflect off steel structures, their aspirations as vast yet unreachable as space itself. The resistance, though small and fragmented like asteroid fragments scattered in a cosmic ballet, represents the indomitable human spirit seeking dignity amidst despair. Each act of defiance stitching threads into an invisible tapestry, yearning for change. In a world where capitalism's gravity pulls stronger than any planetary force, what becomes of entities like Hurston Dynamics when faced with the rising tide of dissent? Will they bend under pressure or break and shatter into dust against demands for equity beyond their control, to provide more humanely without losing sight of profit margins that feed back upstream as if through a black hole absorbing all? Or is there room in this cosmic game, a place where the rights and lives intertwine with corporate interests at an intimate dance, sometimes harmonious but often fraught? Only time will unveil whether justice can penetrate these industrialized layers to touch hearts of those who built it. Their stories are not just footnotes in history, they're chapters being written now. So, we delve into the heartbeat of this corporation, from a single enterprise to Hurston Dynamics' towering presence over Stanton. The planet's landscape bore witness as steel and smoke molded its skies, a testament to human ingenuity or exploitation. Here in Arc Corp, beneath neon signs flickering like distant stars, workers hustled through the factories with a relentless pace that echoes from street vendors on Crusader's floating markets. But who benefits when industries flourish at this cost? The history of Hurston Dynamics isn't just about economic booms. It also tells tales woven into every fabric, circuit, and pipe they erect across their industrial empire. But herein lies the paradox. While Arc Corp gleams with affluence, its denizens, the very hands that crafted their success into existence. Their labor shines a harsh light on corporate benevolence. After all, if you were to peel back layers of polished surfaces and vent systems designed for maximum efficiency, what would they find beneath? Here we see Hurston Dynamics not just as an economic powerhouse, but also the source from which countless personal stories emerge. Tales marred by exploitation, yet underscored with resilience. What is progress when measured against human cost? One might ask, each of these industrious souls trapped in a cycle where their worth was commoditized long before they could claim it as their own. So, as whispers turned into roars and shadows morphed under streetlights to outlines bearing arms, a silent yet explosive revolution simmers in the cramped alleyways beneath advocacy's gaze. The dissenters of Hurston Dynamics weren't merely seeking a voice. They were challenging an edifice built on disparity and discontent, brick by unjustly extracted brick from their very bones. Here we witness the clash not just between corporate might and worker revolt, but also within these workers themselves. Between those who dream of tomorrow's horizon beyond exploitation and today's struggle for recognition against a backdrop that has turned everything to gold, yet left little behind in its wake. In the year 2746 AD, amidst burgeoning industrial might and unchecked corporate expansionism on Hurston, a place already marred by soot-blackened skies and ailing populace, emerged Hurston Dynamics. This conglomerate did not merely take over. It claimed the very soul of Stanton's industry, intertwining its fate with that of every worker who toiled within their factories day in, day out under dim, flickering lights. As decades turned to centuries under their unyielded reign, Hurston Dynamics became more than a corporation. It morphed into an entity that not only owned the planet, but also dictated every breath its people drew. From factory floors where sweat and smoke merged in symphony, to barracks of laborers who scarcely saw daylight beyond their windowsills, life under Hurston Dynamics was one continuous cycle, harness for profit. Consider the daily lives shadowed by despair. Where once was a rich tapestry of diverse communities, now lay monotonous rows and factories. Hurston's laborers, with hands calloused not from creation but relentless repetition, this is their reality, working in silence for wages that barely sustain the most essential parts of existence beyond mere survival. Here stands a planet held ruthlessly by corporate might, its very soil stripped bare and forged anew into fields of concrete monotony. Where diverse settlements once thrived with life dictions, now tower over the horizon vast factories, a monument to human ambition, but also exploitation. Can you imagine what this transformation meant for Hurston Dynamics workers? Each day they rise before dawn not out of love or passion, but necessity and survival in a landscape where profit trumps community values. Descending into the bowels of these factories, each laborer a cog in an interstellar empire's colossal machine. There they toil under harsh conditions, where time is measured not by seconds but shifts. Their bodies bend and break for corporate coffers' gain, while personal aspirations fade into obscurity amidst the din of machinery. What drives such endurance in face of overwhelming odds? Is it merely survival or something deeper? Perhaps a flicker of defiance against an unyielding system that sees them as nothing more than assets to be exploited at will. But this isn't merely a tale of workplace despair. The shadow Hurston Dynamics casts extends far beyond factory walls, into the very essence of society on that planet, where corporate governance dictates not only economies, but lives and futures as well. Where do people stand when faced with such overwhelming influence? Beneath this industrial behemoth lies stories untold, tales of resistance sparked in silence by those who dare to dream beyond the grim reality imposed upon them. Here we see not just a company, but an empire forging its legacy. At what cost, and with whom does it truly reckon? Imagine waking up in a world where your home is not just property, but an asset owned by the very corporation that employs you. This isn't some far-off dystopian fiction. It's reality for many under Hurston Dynamics, who commandeer entire planets like chess pieces on their grand board of space commerce and industry. A stark embodiment of capitalist extremes in the unforgiving depths of outer systems. Here, life doesn't just revolve around survival. It spirals into an endless cycle where your birthright is not freedom, but labor contracted by circumstance from cradle to grave. But why, one might ask with furrowed brows, why would humans willingly surrender such personal liberties for the sake of employment? The answer lies in survival, but also within a complex web of dependencies and fear. Hurston Dynamics has built not just an industrial empire here on this planet, it's constructed livelihood. Workers trade their autonomy hand in hand with sustenance. A dangerous bargain when the corporations decree, conceal your fate or destitution without a second thought from those in powerless positions. To ponder the true price of Hurston Dynamics' dominion over this world, one must see beyond mere economies. It's a cost measured in freedom, spirit, and humanity itself, stripped away as though flesh were just another resource on their vast inventory list to exploit for growth or profit. Where once stood diverse cultures, now echoes the monotonous hum of production lines, a symphony where every note is controlled by one unrelenting corporate maestro, dictating not only economies, but very lives and dreams. In the year 2910, when corporate giants began their relentless expansion beyond Earth's atmosphere, Hurston Dynamics emerged as a behemoth. It started with one visionary, a mogul who saw potential in industrial dominance across systems and galaxies alike. As they spread outwards from Stanton into the uncharted territories of space pirates or neglected sectors like Pyro, their influence became an omnipresent force, a shadow cast over planets that had once been autonomous worlds. As these corporations reshaped the universe's architecture of power and trade routes around them, they did not just introduce a different economic model. they uprooted entire societies. Hurston Dynamics' grip on its planet, through direct ownership, or through symbiotic but heavily skewed alliances with local governance structures, ushered in an era where the concept of sovereignty was redefined for many as little more than a distant memory, often lost to greed and exploitation. How could one navigate such waters when every star system began resembling Stanton? The cost wasn't merely financial. It reached into communities' social fabrics. Beneath the veil of progress and technological marvels, a story unfolds. Workers subjected to a grind not unlike what they faced back on Earth. The Hurston Dynamics Corporation, in its quest for power expansion, often overlooked that at each factory corner or mining site lay souls yearning beyond just paycheck and bounties. Dreams unraveled by the ceaseless hum of machinery echoes their daily struggle, their fight against an empire built on exploitation. Each piece they extract, every task assigned without respite, underlines a stark reality. Freedom is often sacrificed for survival in this cosmic dance between corporate titans and human resilience. And so the sun rises over a landscape where steel giants scrape across the sky. Here at Hurston Dynamics, life is not for Lessian. It's an endurance test day in and out on planet Stanton. These workers toil under conditions that would wear down even seasoned veterans back home, backbreaking labor with minimal rest as they extract resources vital, yet so taken for granted by the corporate elite. But where does the line between corporate interest and human dignity lie? Beyond those towering structures of industrial might lurks cramped living quarters, far from what we consider adequate or humane. Here, families are broken by necessity into single-room tenements with shared facilities that do little to mask their overcrowdedness, where meals and leisure time become luxuries beyond the reach of many. Considering these revelations, one cannot help but ponder, what is progress when it demands such a heavy toll on the human spirit? As we've witnessed in this chapter of Hurston Dynamics, power and prosperity come at an uncomfortable cost. The relentless pursuit by corporate giants often leaves workers ensnared between survival and exploitation. Yet amidst these struggles lie pockets of resilience that defy the grim reality. As we delve into the annals of Hurston Dynamics' storied past, let us embark on a journey that intertwines corporate ambition with human cost. Founded in an era when industrial expansion was deemed synonymous with progress, this titan among planets has risen not just as a beacon of industry, but also through storms and controversies alike. Amidst the bustling factories and ever-present hum of machinery lies a human story often shrouded in silence. Here, individuals toil under artificial skies, their lives dictated by production lines that pulse like lifeblood through this cold concrete organism we call Hurston Dynamics. They endure hours beyond what the light outside these walls permits, and still rise with dawn's first ray for more labor. But what is progress when it demands such a heavy toll on the human spirit? The stark reality of Hurston Dynamics' dominion casts long shadows over its surface, where prosperity for some comes at an unspoken price. As we witness their daily struggle and sacrifice beneath corporate oversight, lives measured in output rather than moments lived freely outside a work shift's end, one must ask, what cost does this empire bear, and who truly pays the heaviest toll amidst these steel giants' shadow, stretching over landscapes of both industry and souls alike? Amidst the towering industrial complexes that stretch across Hurston like monolithic behemoths against a backdrop of polluted skies and soiled waters, laborers toil day in and out. Their hands, calloused from relentless work on mechanized assembly lines, where profit margins loom larger than life itself. These are the very sinews that power Hurston Dynamics' insatiable engine for growth. But what cost does this prosperity demand of those who provide it? The answer is not just in wages or benefits, but deeply ingrained into their existence, etching a narrative where ambition and survival often clash on the very ground that sustains them. From behind sealed security gates to glass walls of executive lounges, where suits command control with a mere gesture or glance at holographic displays, Hurston Dynamics is an empire that thrives on visible inequality. Yet, The eyes beholding this divide belong not just to spectators, but fellow denizens who bear witness daily. They ask us why their lives are valued less than assets in a ledger entry, where every penny counts towards corporate bonuses rather than livelihoods. As we trace back through history and delve deeper into its roots within this colonized terrain of industry, its presence is not just a footnote, but a defining chapter. The legacy Hurston Dynamics has crafted here on Stanton speaks volumes, echoing tales from every corner where corporate ambition outweigh community bonds. It's reminiscent of olden empires whose legacies are often marred by conquest and subjugation. But is this merely a pattern repeating itself in the cosmos? We stand here ponderously, realizing that understanding Hurston Dynamics means acknowledging not just its corporate triumphs, but also recognizing those who bear them most heavily. In the heartbeat of industrial planet known as Hurston, underneath steel-clad skyscrapers, where neon lights flicker like a second sun rasters and factories bellow steam into cold night air, here lie our workers. These individuals are not mere employees, but cogs in an ever-spinning machine driven by corporate ambition, each day commuting from makeshift shanties to towering production lines where the price of progress is etched onto their faces and bodies. Here's a man named Illy who wakes before dawn, the first light only illuminating his worn face as he readies himself for another grueling shift at one of Hurston Dynamics' factories. The relentless hum of machinery never ceases, an enduring reminder that life here is governed by efficiency and output. Considering the harsh conditions these individuals have to adapt, what do you think fuels their resilience? It's not just survival, but a fight for dignity in a world where every second at work translates directly into personal sacrifice. Yet this battle rages quietly behind closed doors as families huddle together on sparse rations and dream of brighter futures. The legacy Hurston Dynamics has cemented over the years is not built solely out of steel, but also in sweat and blood. It's a testament to human endurance, yet it begs us to question, at what cost does this prosperity come? One cannot help but wonder how the gleaming promotional posters depicting a prosperous Hurston Dynamics starkly contrast with reality. A facade of corporate benevolence where every handshake and smile is meticulously choreographed to instill trust, while behind this veneer lies stories untold. Tales not celebrated in any brochure or annual report. As we peer into the daily routines within Hurston Dynamics headquarters, a glass fortress that overlooks a city of concrete and smog-darkened skies, we encounter executives whose lives are cushioned by privilege. In stark contrast, their subordinates toil under conditions where safety measures can often feel like an afterthought. But what drives this disconnect between corporate image and the gritty reality? The answer lies in a complex web of economic policies that prioritize profits over people, a theme recurrently echoed throughout Hurston Dynamics history, yet seldom addressed openly due to fear or indifference. This chasm raises critical questions about accountability and ethics within such corporate giants. Where lies the balance between growth and humane treatment of its workforce? As we stand at this juncture in our exploration of the corporate giant that is Hurston Dynamics, a behemoth with tendrils entwined around every aspect of life on its home planet, one can't ignore the far-reaching implications. Our journey here has peeled back layers to reveal a narrative not solely about commerce, but also humanity. It speaks volumes that Hurston Dynamics continues as both an economic powerhouse and symbol for exploitation, a dichotomy of success shadowed by societal cost. So, where do we go from here? The reflections on this chapter are meant to serve as more than just a record. They should be catalysts sparking discussions about the balance between corporate interests and human welfare, as guardianship over such an entity is bestowed upon society at large by choice, not obligation. It becomes our duty to envision alternatives that ensure progress doesn't come with unbearable costs. The story of Hurston Dynamics serves as a cautionary tale in the annals of interstellar commerce. It poses an invitation for introspection and action towards establishing frameworks where corporate success is synonymous not just with economic gain, but also ethical responsibility to all individuals touched by its orbit.